Yeah, just extraordinary details, Misty. Let me go over to you. The length of time that the jury deliberated and, as Camilla is saying, mostly guilty verdicts. What do you make of what happened today in court?
You know, I'm actually surprised that the jury didn't come back sooner. The prosecution had just a tremendous amount of electronic evidence. Of course, we had those internet searches, but couple that with text messages. Couple that with text messages to a woman that he was in a relationship with, 4,000 messages exchanged, started the relationship in February through the day of his wife's death on March 18th. All of those text messages, orders for these poisons online, all of this memorialized in the electronic footprint that was so damaging to the defense. The defense making the argument that nobody could really say how these poisons got into Angela's system. And so maybe it was suicide, raising that as an alternative explanation, the jury not buying it. And keep in mind, he was convicted of first-degree murder. That is premeditated murder. That means that they bought what prosecution had laid out, that this was planned in advance, and there was a systematic plan to kill his wife up to and including the days that she was actually in the hospital. He was still administering these poisons, cyanide, to her. So this was a verdict I expected, a little more time than I thought it would take, but truly justice in this case, given what we learned during the trial.
And I wonder, Misty, given what Camilla is saying, that he actually enlisted his daughter to help him try to cover up part of his crime, could there be more charges at some point in this case?
So these charges that were brought actually post-incarceration, he was already arrested and he was behind bars. He was communicating with his daughter. He was communicating with another inmate, Kristen, both in writing, trying to manufacture and fabricate evidence that would support his defense that Angela had suicidal ideations, both coming forward and providing that information to law enforcement. That led to these solicitation charges. They were charges on their own. But, Kristen, I'll go a step further and say it wasn't just the crime, it's also the cover-up. Not only did that relate to the new charges that were brought against him, it also spoke specifically to the guilty mind, which is obviously what the jury found. Why fabricate this evidence? Why speak to your daughter about actually creating a deep fake of Angela? So think about how personal that is, asking her to do that if you didn't commit the crime. So it was really twofold, the way that prosecutors presented this evidence, not only for those other convictions, but also relating to that guilty mind and intent element.
Well, it is just devastating all around, and the breaking news, again, incredibly significant.